Hi, and welcome back to my Gallery Talks with Craig video series. This is episode 6, entitled Evolutions of Family, in which I will answer a list of questions that my marble sculpture, Evolutions of Family, inspired my friend Lisa from Florida to ask. Throughout my career, I have been asked similar questions many times before. Sharing what I do is a privilege. I'm grateful for the interest and always happy to answer such questions. A video series seems to be the best way to reach the most people. If you're enjoying this series, we all have Lisa to thank. Let's get right to it with her first question. What comes first, the idea or the material, and where do you source your materials? There are two important subjects here to discuss. The first is about process. Working from ideas versus working with an established and ever-growing language. The second subject to discuss is about the importance of materials, or media as we artists call them. Let's start with process, as this varies greatly from one artist to another. I learned long ago that by disregarding any need for an original vision or reliance on imagery, I can dive into a creative and intellectual abyss with only my current language and understanding of form each time I start a piece. The results are greater possibilities for discovery and a pure expression of my core being. Nothing feels forced or contrived. The common thread of my own artistic language is far more apparent and, from my perspective, important. Remember, I'm on a quest. I want my response, my reactions to be pure and honest. Materials. In my work, materials are far from arbitrary. My relationship to the chosen material, its structural and behavioral integrity, my awareness of and sensibilities to its characteristics, assets, and liabilities, all play vital roles in guiding my experience and in determining the outcome. Though my language stays the same, depending on my chosen material, the manipulations change, as do some of the results. For example, it is not possible to stretch stone as I do with metal. I source the materials wherever I can find them. Living in New England, Vermont is a great marble source. Evolutions of Family is cut from Dorset white marble quarried in Dorset, Vermont. Metals come from a variety of places. Stainless steel rod can be sourced from many companies in most states. Bronze plate, however, is only produced in a few places around the country. As for wood, sometimes I carve directly from felled trees, and sometimes I use milled lumber. Lisa's second question is, how much did your original vision change as you worked on this latest piece? As I just stated, I purposely don't start with a vision, but depending on various factors, I might start with a feeling, certain constraints, a relationship of forces, or a general response to the physical limits of the material. In all of my work, I allow for discovery and growth. Hence, I approach the work as an opportunity to find what I could not have imagined. The only way to do this is to expect change. Most of my pieces change dramatically throughout the process. While I may do initial sketches before starting in material, I've never finished a sculpture that looks exactly like an initial sketch. In my opinion, that would be manufacturing. Lisa's third question is, what famous sculptors influenced your work? I mentioned a few in the previous episode, but here is a lengthier list. Michelangelo, Rodin, Brancusi, Henry Moore, Barbara Hepworth, Lipschitz, Dubuffet, Archipenko, Tatland, Alexander Calder, Picasso, Caroline Lee, Naum Gabo, Noguchi, Nakashima, and many more. I was equally influenced, however, by other artists such as John Coltrane, Thelonious Monk, Jimi Hendrix, Martha Graham, Edward Munch, Vincent van Gogh, and many, many others. Lisa's fourth question is, what from nature influenced this particular piece? For the most part, I don't use or draw from specific identifiable images in nature as much as I look to the evidence of the forces of nature. For example, forms that result from the intersection of cooperating and conflicting forces, all of the ubiquitous forms of nature that transcend scale and waves, breath, a pulse, polarization, ebbs and flows, etc. However, I do occasionally return to the specific image of a seed for the relative narratives of protection, potential, life force, birth, and metamorphosis. Lisa's fifth question is, at what point during the artistic process do you come up with a piece's title? Never in the beginning stages, but beyond that it varies from piece to piece. For example, during the process of creating a fabricated bronze piece entitled Glance of the Serpent in the early 1990s, there was a gesture to the piece I established early on that reminded me of Nietzsche's quote, "He who fights with monsters should be careful lest he be thereby become a monster. And if thou gaze long into an abyss, the abyss will also gaze into thee." Evolutions of Family, however, took a very long time before it revealed its title to me. Lisa's sixth question is the sphere at the bottom a departure for you, and what does it represent? Lisa, you are very observant and your questions are excellent. I've used spherical forms before for different reasons. You might look at the base design from my cast bronze piece, Glimmer. While many forms can have importance to me, I like to create works of art that can inspire disparate and highly individualized interpretations. It's a way of connecting with a variety of people by tickling at their own personal baggage or life experience. The sphere can be interpreted in many different ways. Without giving away too much here, I can say that my primary interpretations of the sphere are our universe, individual planets, fruit, and seeds, but I also use forms as ideas. Lisa's seventh question is, the plural, evolutions, intrigues me. Why the plural instead of the singular? Again, my friend Lisa is astute. Evolutions of Family is a composition of three forms which unify into a whole far greater than the sum of the parts. Each individual form is integral to the success of the whole. It took a while, but late in the cutting of the stone, this became a clear representation of my own experiences with family and the dynamic and fluid changes that occur over time. Equally as powerful, the sculpture also brought to mind the current cultural redefining of family. I love Lisa's final question. Depending on the angle, I sometimes feel hope and sometimes feel struggle. Was that the intention? And how do you feel emotionally as you worked on this? Spot on, Lisa. Yes, this was my intention. I frequently create pieces that can inspire opposing interpretations, largely because this is how I experience life each and every day. As my pieces can require hundreds of hours, I experience a full range of emotions throughout the creative process. As always, thanks for joining me on this path, and I hope you will continue to watch future episodes. In episode 7, I will be in my studio for a look at my constructivist process of hammering and fabricating bronze. Until next time, remember that the visual world can bring as much inspiration, invigoration, and joy as music brings to our ears. All we have to do is look.